Gentlemen, welcome back to the University of Smooth. You will have to go to another YouTube channel for emotional support because we are that emotionally unavailable bad boy podcast. Today, unattractive behavior, emotional availability. This is one of those little onions. I know, ironic vegetable because it makes you cry. Emotional availability is, one could argue, not necessarily attractive or unattractive. However, in practice, it generally is unattractive behavior. Let's start with an illustration. This will sound somewhat familiar to you. Girl is in a toxic relationship with a man. And by the way, little side lesson, the only kind of relationship that women ever want with men is a toxic relationship. They do not want non-toxic relationships with men. Word to the wise. In the middle of that toxic relationship with a man, she experiences emotional highs and lows and everything in between, the roller coaster. In those moments of anger, frustration with that toxic man, she finds a shoulder to cry on, usually a male, a friend zoned male. And he's got like the best shoulder. Like his shoulder over here, unlike mine, his shoulder is like super absorbent and it's nice and cushiony. You can fit your cheek, your tear ducts right in there, ladies, not mine, other dudes. And you cry away and you talk about how this guy is not doing what you want him to be doing and he's frustrating you to no end. And so the guy in that situation, he has access. And in fact, he is receiving all sorts of emotion from this woman. So he may be confused into thinking that somehow this is going to lead to attraction. And we all know this story. It never does. So what's happening here? Let's back up to our fundamental equation. How do women look for value in men? How do men look for value in women? Women look for strength and protection. Men look for fertility. Men have a very, very shrewd and keen eye when it comes to female value. They look at her ass. That will answer like 90% of all the questions. Women have a very shrewd and keen eye when it comes to what they're looking for. They look for strength. Emotional availability signals weakness. It does not signal strength. And by the way, it may not necessarily be either strong or weak, but it signals weakness. This is a critical distinction. If you lack value, or if your value is on the bubble, and we focus on you guys who are working hard to become more valuable, your value is not bulletproof yet. Your value is uncertain in her eyes. If that's the case, then any signal that suggests weakness is one you want to avoid. This is why emotional availability is critical for you to avoid. Now, it does not necessarily mean that you have to be emotionally fully indifferent. In fact, you have to engage emotions. And being unavailable really only means that you are not available. That's different from being like some sort of complete asshole, tone deaf idiot to her emotions. It just means that in the moment, as a repeated pattern, you are not available. You may be available at times, and that ambiguity works in your favor. One other distinction that you need to understand about emotional unavailability: you have to have value first. You cannot really acquire a ton of value by being aloof and unavailable unless you already have something else she's looking for. If you have a great physique, a really good job, you've been signaling status very effectively with a woman, you have been signaling some good emotional engagement, at that point, then some level of unavailability is going to work in your favor. But if your value is on the bubble, this kind of intriguing aloof behavior, it's not that you don't want to engage in it, but just do not assume that it's going to get you over the hump with a woman. In some instances it might, but do not make this type of behavior the main source of your value. Work on our male protector algorithm instead. Focus on legitimate value. Then when you have it, that's what she wants to know. Just like you want to know what her ass looks like. She wants to know what kind of strength you have. Then as you start to engage on an emotional level with a woman, which is necessary, you can demonstrate your emotional strength. Emotional availability is essentially making her emotions the primary emotions of record in a relationship that is not attractive to a woman. She wants to have an interplay with your emotions that indicates that you have the strong emotions, that your emotions are the emotions of record, and that when she rages and rails against any number of things, including you, she can always find comfort in your strength. It's not always comfort in you offering comfort, it's comfort in your strength. There's a big difference. And that's why we tell you to focus on building your own value first. And then there's some nuance to being available. It's not always so black and white, but focus on your own value first. Like, subscribe, and be a little intriguing, be a little mysterious, and don't respond to that text within 5 minutes of her sending it. Take care.